Jax's revenge domain. The moment Ashley walked into that conference room next to CEO Lucas Richardson, I knew my promotion was gone. You know that feeling when your gut just drops? 20 people around the table started clapping. Someone behind me said, "About time." I just sat there, hands folded, watching this whole thing play out. "This is an exciting day," Richardson announced. "We're promoting our new engineering director." He said her name, not mine. Ashley didn't look surprised. She looked ready. As the applause died down, she leaned over to me, close enough that only I could hear. "Guess I won, right, Scott? You're still just another engineer." I turned to her slowly. "If that's what you think." She smiled wider, already savoring it. "My name is Scott Jordan. I'm 49 years old, and I just watched someone else get credit for the automated safety system I spent 4 years building from scratch. Here's what you need to understand about this whole mess. Sometimes you don't know if you're winning or losing until the dust settles. Let me back up and tell you how this started. 4 years ago, our manufacturing plant was bleeding money from safety violations. I'm talking serious cash. OSHA was breathing down our necks, the union was filing grievances every week, and every accident meant production shutdowns. You know what that costs a company like ours? Try 6 figures every time we had to stop the line. So I pitched an idea to Ryan Foster, my VP. An automated monitoring system that could prevent most of these issues before they happened. Smart sensors, predictive algorithms, the whole 9 yards. "How close are we to implementation?" I asked Ryan after another progress review. This was maybe 18 months into the project. "Very close," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Ryan's got this habit of doing that when he's buying time. Scott, you're doing everything right. The board loves your numbers. I'm asking because we're ready for full deployment. This needs someone with authority to oversee it." He smiled, that non-committal smile manager's perfect in corporate training. "Next quarter, Scott. Let's wait until it's official." Wasn't the first time he'd said that. Wouldn't be the last either. Here's the thing. I'd built this system from nothing. Spent nights in the plant learning every machine, every safety protocol, every union requirement. You want to build something that works in manufacturing? You better understand what the guys on the floor actually deal with. I talked to welders, assembly workers, maintenance techs. I learned their language, their problems, their shortcuts. When the system started preventing accidents and saving the company real money, we're talking $150,000 a month in avoided downtime, suddenly everyone was interested. Funny how that works. "You're the backbone of this project," Ryan told me one afternoon in the hallway. "Then make it official," I said. "Soon," he replied. "You know what soon means in corporate speak? It means when I figure out how to manage the politics." Soon became months. Months became a year. Then Ryan brought Ashley Brooks into our meetings. "She'll help with executive presentations," he explained. "You know, polish the communication side." Now Ashley's got an MBA from somewhere impressive and a background in consulting. She's maybe 32, sharp as a tack when it comes to presentations, and she knows how to work a room. I'll give her that much credit. Ashley slid into the chair next to me and smiled. "I'm just here to learn." That first presentation, she spoke before I could. "Let me walk leadership through our strategy," she said, clicking to the next slide. "Our strategy, not mine. Ours. You see what happened there? One little word change and suddenly I'm part of a team instead of the guy who built the thing." After the meeting, I cornered Ryan. "Why is she presenting my system?" "She connects with executives, Scott. Don't take it personally." I tried not to. But here's what started happening. Ashley would send emails to leadership without copying me. She'd rephrase my technical explanations in meetings. She'd get praised for clarity on decisions she hadn't made. Let me tell you something about working in corporate America for 20+ years. You learn to read the signs. And the signs were all pointing in one direction. I finally addressed it head on. "Ryan, I need to know. Am I still being considered for the director role?" He sighed like I was being difficult. "You're being impatient. I'm being direct." He didn't answer that question. The next week, Ashley became a permanent presenter. "She's not replacing you," Ryan said quickly. "This is temporary." I nodded. "But you know how sometimes your brain and your gut disagree?" My brain said, "Believe him." My gut said, "Start paying closer attention." By the third executive meeting, I realized Ashley didn't just have my presentation slides. She had my language. My specific technical phrases that I'd written in private documents at home. The predictive algorithm is elegant because it anticipates operator error, she explained to the leadership team. That exact sentence came from a draft I'd written at 2 a.m. on my home laptop, a draft that had never left my computer, never been shared with anyone. After the meeting, I caught up to her by the elevators. "How did you get access to my development notes?" She looked at me like I'd asked a stupid question. "Because you shared them with the team. I shared final presentations, not draft documents," she shrugged. "Maybe you forgot. Executives don't care who wrote what anyway. They care who can explain it." And that's when I knew. This wasn't about helping with presentations anymore. The next presentation went even further. You know how in movies they show someone gradually disappearing? That's what happened to my work. My name disappeared from the documentation footer. The safety protocols became team-developed approaches. When technical questions came up, leadership looked to her first. Here's what really got me. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. In one meeting, a director asked about the sensor calibration parameters. Ashley jumped right in with my exact specifications, down to the decimal points. Specifications I'd calculated through weeks of testing that I'd never written down anywhere she could access. I asked Ryan for a private meeting the next day. He looked tired when I closed his office door. You could tell this whole situation was wearing on him too. "This isn't about recognition," I said, sitting across from his desk. "It's about accuracy. Ashley is presenting my system as her work." Ryan glanced at my laptop screen where I'd pulled up the original development files. Version histories, approval timestamps, everything documented. "I don't doubt you contributed, Scott." "I didn't contribute. I built it." He leaned back in that chair of his. "Ashley translates your technical work for executives. That's valuable. She's not translating. She's replacing my voice with hers." Ryan's tone shifted. "Got that edge managers use when they're done with a conversation. You're starting to sound territorial." "I'm being factual. Leadership notices initiative, Scott." Ashley steps up. "Maybe you should think about that." After that meeting, I watched Ashley at the coffee machine, talking to Ryan in low tones. "She's really stepping into the role," he told her. Stepping into the role. Not helping with presentations anymore, taking over the role. Ashley glanced at me over his shoulder. When Ryan walked away, she came over to where I was standing. "Everything okay?" I told him the truth. "Good," she said, stirring her coffee. "Then you've done your part." That's when it hit me. The system hadn't failed by accident. It had made a choice, and that choice wasn't me. You know what I mean? Sometimes in corporate life, the writing's on the wall and you're the last one to read it. So I changed my approach completely. Instead of fighting for credit, I started documenting everything. Every email Ashley sent without proper authorization. Every change she made to safety protocols without engineering approval. Every shortcut she took because it streamlined the process. Here's something you might not know about engineering. We document everything anyway. It's in our nature. But now I was doing it with purpose. I created folders on my personal drive. Timestamps, email chains, meeting notes. The whole paper trail. I stopped correcting her in meetings. When she jumped in with answers, I let her finish. When Ryan nodded at her explanations, I wrote down exactly what she'd said instead of interrupting. "You're quiet lately," Ryan mentioned after a team meeting about 2 weeks later. "Everything's clear now," I replied. He seemed relieved, like maybe the territorial Scott problem had solved itself. Ashley grew bolder. "You give someone an inch in corporate politics, they'll take the whole highway. We can eliminate some of these redundant safety checks," she announced in a leadership sync. "They're slowing down production." Now here's where my 20-plus years of experience kicked in. Those weren't redundant checks. They were the foundation of the whole system. But instead of jumping in like I usually would, I spoke up calmly. "Those checks exist for OSHA compliance." She waved me off like I was being nitpicky. "We'll manage the risk." After the meeting, she stopped by my desk. "You don't need to worry about every detail, Scott. I've got this covered." "Do you?" I asked. She laughed. "I'm in charge now." 2 days later, she sent an email to Richardson without copying me or Ryan. Subject line, "Optimizing Safety Protocols, Implementation Plan." She'd removed 3 critical monitoring steps and bypassed 2 union approval requirements. I forwarded that email to myself and added a note in my documentation folder. "No engineering authorization requested or granted. Safety protocols modified without compliance review." In the next executive review, Richardson asked, "Are we ready to proceed with the optimization?" Ashley answered confidently, "Yes, we're good to go." I didn't contradict her. I opened my notebook and wrote down the date, time, and her exact words. The problems started small. A sensor that should have triggered a shutdown didn't. A safety gate that bypassed its lockout sequence. Ashley dismissed these as expected variants during optimization. But I knew better. The system was failing because she'd removed the safeguards that made it work. It's like removing the brakes on a car and wondering why you can't stop. When a worker nearly got caught in an automated assembly line because the proximity sensors were optimized out of the sequence, the union rep called Ryan directly. I was in the break room when my phone rang. "Scott, can you get to conference room B right now?" Ryan's voice was tight. "Emergency meeting." The union rep, Tommy Hendricks, good guy, been looking out for workers for 15 years, was already there when I arrived. So was Ashley, checking her phone like this was just another meeting. "Your system approved a dangerous operation," Tommy said, looking directly at Ryan. "Jimmy Martinez nearly lost his arm because the proximity sensors didn't stop the line. Someone could have been killed." Ashley looked up from her phone. "We've identified the issue. We'll patch it." "Who authorized removing the proximity checks?" Tommy demanded. The guy was genuinely angry, and rightfully so. Ashley hesitated for just a second. The engineering team agreed it was redundant. "I never agreed to that," I said quietly. The room went dead silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Ashley's face went red. "Why are you undermining the optimization?" she snapped at me. "I'm answering his question." Ryan looked uncomfortable. You could see him calculating the political angles. "Let's take this offline." Afterward, Ashley cornered me in the hallway. Her composure was cracking. "You're sabotaging me. I'm protecting the workers. You're trying to slow down progress. I'm trying to keep people safe." That afternoon, another incident occurred, then a third by end of week. By Friday, OSHA had opened an investigation. The compliance meeting was called by Michelle Torres, our safety director. Not by Ryan, not by Richardson, by compliance. When the safety director calls a meeting after OSHA opens an investigation, you know things have gotten serious. Ashley forwarded the meeting invite to leadership with a note. "Standard review. Nothing concerning." I read that email and thought, "Lady, you have no idea what's coming." When we sat down in the main conference room, Michelle opened her folder with the kind of expression that means business. You've seen that look before. It's the same one your high school principal had when they knew exactly what you did wrong. "We need to understand the authorization chain for recent safety protocol changes," she said, looking around the table. Ashley, Ryan, the OSHA investigator, a legal representative, and me. Ashley nodded too quickly. "Of course. Happy to clarify anything." Michelle turned to me first. "Scott, who holds final engineering authority for the safety system?" "I do," I said simply. "I designed the original framework and maintained authorization throughout development." "And who approved the recent modifications?" Here's where 4 years of documentation paid off. Nobody. No engineering approval was requested for the changes that removed the safety protocols. Ashley jumped in. "That was after the management transition. I was acting with full authority." Michelle looked confused. "What transition?" "Your engineering director appointment was announced yesterday. These modifications were made 3 weeks ago." The room got quiet. You could hear the air conditioning humming. "Ashley," Michelle continued, "did you have engineering authority to modify safety protocols 3 weeks ago?" "I was acting in the role," Ashley said, but her voice had lost that confident edge. "Acting authority and having authority are different things," Michelle replied. She turned back to me. "Scott, do you have documentation of the original system parameters?" I slid my laptop forward and opened the folder I'd been building. Version histories, OSHA compliance records, union approval documents, and the last authorized modification request. I clicked through the files. There hasn't been one since Ashley implemented her changes. The OSHA investigator spoke next. His name was Carl Davidson, and he'd been doing this job long enough to know bullshit when he heard it. "We've identified 3 safety violations that resulted directly from unauthorized protocol modifications. Someone removed required safeguards without proper clearance." Ashley's voice got tight. "We were under pressure to optimize production efficiency." "Pressure doesn't override federal safety requirements," Michelle said evenly. Carl leaned forward. Who specifically authorized the changes that led to the Jimmy Martinez incident? Nobody answered. Ashley looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at his hands. The legal rep was taking notes. Michelle closed her folder with a snap. Until this is resolved, all modifications to the safety system are suspended. Engineering authority returns to the original system designer. Ashley's face went white. You're suspending my authority? We're following protocol, Michelle replied, effective immediately. After everyone filed out, Ashley grabbed my arm in the hallway. Her composure was completely gone now. You planned this whole thing. I documented what happened. You could have warned me about the authorization requirements. I looked at her straight on. I did warn you. Multiple times. You told me you had it covered. She laughed, but it sounded brittle. You wanted me to fail. I wanted the system to work safely. You made that impossible. For the first time since she'd taken over, Ashley wasn't speaking for the system. The system was speaking for itself. The second all-hands meeting felt different before anyone said a word. Richardson stood at the front without Ashley beside him. That empty space told the whole story. We need to address last week's safety incidents, he began. No sugarcoating this time. The automated system approved dangerous operations without proper clearance. A murmur went through the room. You could see people connecting the dots. Ashley stood near the side wall, arms crossed, trying to look like this was all just a misunderstanding. A hand went up from the engineering team. Why did the safeguards fail? Richardson looked at Ryan, then at Ashley, then turned to me. Scott, can you explain what happened? I didn't stand. Didn't make a big show of it. The safeguards didn't fail. They were removed without engineering authorization. Ashley stepped forward. That's not accurate. I was leading the optimization effort. Without authority to modify safety protocols, I said quietly. The room got dead quiet. You know that moment in a meeting when everyone realizes they're witnessing something significant? This was it. Richardson frowned. What authority are we talking about? Engineering approval for any changes to safety systems. That authority was never transferred. Ashley's voice rose. I was managing the project. Ryan approved my appointment. Managing a project and having engineering sign-off authority are different things, I replied. Richardson turned to Michelle, who'd been standing at the back. Is this documented? Yes, Michelle said clearly. Engineering authority was never reassigned. All modifications were made without proper approval. Why wasn't this escalated sooner? Richardson asked. It was, I said, multiple times. The concerns were dismissed. Ashley's face flushed red. You let me walk into this. You watched me make decisions without telling me I didn't have authority. I told you exactly that. You said you'd manage the risk. Richardson nodded slowly. You could see him calculating the liability, the OSHA fines, the potential lawsuits. Effective immediately, the engineering director appointment is suspended pending full review. Project authority returns to the original engineering lead. No applause followed. No congratulations. Just the sound of Ashley gathering her papers with shaking hands. I stayed in my seat. The truth hadn't won with arguments or politics. It won when the lies ran out of room to hide. Later that day, Ryan stopped by my desk. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. We're going to formalize your authority, he said quietly. Engineering director officially this time. I'll keep the systems running safely, I replied. That's why it should have been yours from the start, he said. Ashley's access was revoked by end of business. Her calendar cleared overnight. The meetings she once dominated returned to my schedule, this time without commentary from the peanut gallery. The safety system returned to full compliance within 10 days. Tommy Hendricks shook my hand in the break room. Good to have someone who actually understands what's at stake back in charge. That's the thing. About real authority, it doesn't come from announcements or titles. It comes from understanding the weight of what you're responsible for. Ashley's name disappeared from the company directory within a week. No announcement, no farewell email. People just stopped including her in meetings. Her desk got cleared out over the weekend. You know how corporate America handles these things. Quietly, efficiently, like the person never existed. I found out later she'd been reassigned to special projects, which is corporate speak for we're paying you to look for another job. Ryan told me she lasted about 6 weeks before finding something at a consulting firm downtown. Probably for the best. She was good at presentations, just not at understanding what she was presenting. The safety system returned to full compliance within 2 weeks. I reinstated all the monitoring protocols, got the union sign-off on the restored safeguards, and walked OSHA through every change. Carl Davidson closed the investigation with a notation that corrective measures had been implemented. No fines, no penalties. Just a stern reminder that safety protocols exist for reasons. Good work getting this cleaned up, Carl told me as he was packing up his files. We don't see many companies fix problems this thoroughly. It wasn't broken, I said. Someone just tried to improve something that was already working. He laughed. Story of my career. People always think they can optimize safety. 3 months later, Lucas Richardson called me into his office. Not for a meeting with Ryan or the leadership team, just me. I want to understand what happened, he said, closing the door behind me. The real version, not the sanitized report. So I told him, not the revenge angle. That's not how you talk to a CEO. I focused on the technical side, how the system worked, why the safeguards were necessary, what happened when they were removed. Why didn't you stop her sooner? He asked. I tried. Multiple times. I was told to be less territorial. Richardson nodded slowly. And you documented everything? Yes. Show me. I opened my laptop and walked him through the folder structure I'd built. Emails, timestamps, modification records, the works. He spent 20 minutes reviewing it. This is impressive documentation, he said finally. Very thorough. That's what engineers do. He smiled. Good engineers do that. Bad engineers assume someone else will handle the paperwork. He closed my laptop. I'm making some changes to how we handle technical authority. From now on, engineering sign-off can't be bypassed by management preference. If an engineer says something's unsafe, it stops until we get proper review. That was 8 months ago. Since then, the plant's safety record has been the best in company history. 0 major incidents, minimal downtime, union relations back to normal. Turns out when you follow the procedures that were designed to work, they actually work. Ryan and I have found our rhythm again. He handles the corporate politics, I handle the technical decisions. Ashley had been right about one thing. Ryan needed someone who could communicate with executives. But she was wrong about thinking that meant replacing the technical expertise. You want to bring someone in to help with presentations? Ryan asked me a few months after things settled down. Sure, I said, as long as they understand they're translating, not replacing. We hired Jennifer Martinez from the engineering team. She's got 12 years of manufacturing experience and an MBA she earned at night school. More importantly, she asks questions when she doesn't understand something instead of pretending she does. The other day, a director asked Jennifer about sensor calibration parameters. She turned to me and said, "Scott, can you walk us through those specifications? That's how it's supposed to work." She presents the information clearly, I provide the technical depth, and decisions get made with actual understanding instead of just good PowerPoint slides. I was cleaning out my desk files last week and found that original notebook where I'd first sketched the safety system idea. 4 years ago, sitting in a Friday meeting, watching yet another production shut down because someone took a shortcut that led to an accident. Looking back, here's what I learned from this whole mess. Ashley wasn't evil. She wasn't some mastermind villain trying to destroy the company. She was ambitious and capable in her own way, but she made the mistake of thinking authority could be claimed instead of earned. She saw an opportunity and took it. In her world, consulting, MBA programs, corporate presentations, that's probably how things work. You see a gap, you fill it, you get rewarded. But manufacturing is different. In manufacturing, shortcuts kill people. Systems exist for reasons that aren't always obvious until something goes wrong. The real lesson isn't about revenge or getting even. It's about understanding what you're responsible for. When I built that safety system, I wasn't just creating software and hardware. I was creating something that stands between the workers and serious injury. That's not something you hand off to someone because they're better at presentations. Power isn't about titles or org charts. It's about understanding the weight of what you're holding. Ashley wanted the recognition that came with being in charge. I wanted the system to work the way it was designed to work. Turns out those are two very different things. Some people think this story is about patience or documentation or corporate politics. Maybe it is. But for me, it's simpler than that. Sometimes you have to let people make their own mistakes. Sometimes the truth needs space to reveal itself. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just make sure you're ready when reality catches up with the fantasy. Ashley thought she'd won when she heard her name at that first meeting. But winning was never about getting promoted. It was about making sure the people who trusted the system I built could go home safely every day. The promotion was just a bonus. The real victory was keeping the work intact. That's worth more than any title they could give me.